We understand, Andrew, there's going to be a little bit of a fight once we see Alabama and Texas A&M at Kyle Field on Saturday. But how's everything going in Texas?
Everything is going well after a couple of wins to start SEC season. Jimbo Fisher very happy. The loss to Miami and what they've done after that. ULM got themselves right. You open with Auburn and then Arkansas. And a lot of times, Roger, Arkansas is that first SEC game. Instead, it was the second there in Arlington. You can see this defense with the identity. You talk about a fight. I think these two offenses are going to have to fight for every yard that they have to get. This might be old school SEC, old school wrecking crew for Texas A&M. It's going to be something because both these defenses are dynamite and both offenses are dynamic as well. So I think it's a fascinating matchup this Saturday.
It really is. And on the Texas A&M side, we'll go to really one of the offseason storylines of Bobby Petrino coming in as the offensive coordinator, working along with Jimbo Fisher, who has plenty of experience of running his own offenses throughout his time as a head coach. What has that relationship been like? How have you seen it translate to the field?
It's been really good, and Bobby works mostly with the quarterbacks. As you know, Jimbo does that also, but that entire offense, what you'll see is this team take more shots. And if it's there, they'll take them. And the thing is, if you're going to take shots, you've got to have the talent to do that. And the Aggies do on wide receiver, whether it's Evan Stewart or Noah Thomas. And I think Anaya Smith coming back is absolutely huge for the Aggies, the leadership and the experience, but mostly I think that leadership and how that will permeate throughout, not just the offense, but with this entire team. And you had it with Connor Wigman and now Max Johnson. They will take the shot. They did it against, he did it against Auburn. He did it against Arkansas. Nothing changes because of the quarterback. Now, if the shot is not there down the field, they have been instructed, find a tight end, find a running back. Don't just throw it away. That's the last option, live to play another day. And again, you have the running backs who can catch the ball out of the backfield. So that's the thing. Bobby Petrino has said, you feed the studs. The difference is Texas A&M on this offense, they got some studs as wide receivers. So Jimbo, and they've added Jim Chaney as an analyst. He has coached, I believe it's now officially everywhere in the SEC. But when you have those sets of eyes looking at the offense and helping your offense, you can see why the Aggies have an improved offense from last season.
Well, you mentioned really not much of a change. Connor Wigman going down with injury, Max Johnson stepping in. Obviously, Alabama saw Johnson before when he was at LSU, but what's he doing best right now? How did he play against the Razorbacks?
For Max, it's just that pocket presence, reading the entire progression. You know, Jimbo Fisher calls it saddle time. And he said this all last year for a team that did not have a lot of saddle time, more experience. And you're right. Max has played Alabama twice. Max has played Texas A&M twice, Roger. He's been reclassified where now he's just like his brother. He's a sophomore. This will be game number 27 for him. And most of them have been in the SEC. So when you have that kind of composure, I told Jimbo, because of my background, what impresses me about Max Johnson is he's a pro. I know he's not a pro. He's a college player. He's a student athlete. But it's that kind of preparation and being ready. And look, he battled Haynes King last year for that job and then had to take over for Haynes in a moment's notice. And same thing with Connor Wigman. And in no way is it 1 and 2. Like Max was asked, were you thinking of transferring when you weren't named the starting quarterback? And he said, never. Wasn't no. He said never, because it's where I want to be. It's the degree I want to get. It's the teammates that I have. And I think, Roger, we think as fans, put ourselves in the fans. Well, he didn't get the job, so he's going to go somewhere where he can play. It's about competing and what's best, with your teammates. And he gets to play with his brother, Jake Johnson. So, but what he does is he's a little more agile than you think. He doesn't run like Connor Wigman does, but he has the agility and he has some elusiveness to make that first guy miss, and then just sit there and still find the receivers. So again, he's seen an awful lot, and he's going to see something on Saturday that I think it's going to be even more pressure than what he got against Auburn and against Alabama. So, but there's just that maturity and experience that he brings, and that trust with his receivers, because he has worked with them just as much as Connor has throughout camp. And you can see that relationship, I think, this entire offseason for all those receivers coming back. He's got some rapport with them. And really, Jimbo likes to throw receivers open. Look, all quarterbacks do. It's not just Jimbo. But you can see that trust, that I think the routes now for the receivers are more precise. And now Max not just hitting an open receiver, but hitting him in a location where that receiver can catch and turn and get some more yards. I think it's been nice. Worked on his body a little bit, a little stronger, a little faster. And obviously with that size back there, there's a lot of toughness for Max Johnson as well.
On the other side of the football, Alabama fans are really concerned about making sure that Jalen Milroe has some protection and does not get sacked. We saw 4 sacks from Mississippi State this past week. A lot of sacks have piled up all throughout the season, and we know this Texas A&M team can get in the backfield. They have a very strong defensive line. Is that really the strength of this A&M defense, that D-line?
Absolutely. That front four, which goes at times 3 deep, and they'll do it by units, and you'll see McKinley Jackson. He's the key, I think, on that D-line coming back, and he's also a reason why Walter Nolan, who plays alongside him, as well as Shamar Turner, has been so good. Then you add Fadil Diggs. That's the first 4 of that front 4. And for Texas A&M, learning, I think, in the last couple of weeks, the impact that the front 4 has on the back 7. There's a reason why you have Edgerrin Cooper making all the tackles he's making at linebacker. Another reason why a true freshman linebacker, middle linebacker, Torian York, whom they're trusting to make all the calls, can make his tackles. And then Chris Russell Jr. is another one. Had a chance to leave, did not decide to stay. And as you know, that front 4 helps that secondary as well. And they complement one another very well. And then, you know, when you have the second defensive line, you've got Shamar Stewart in there, you've got Albert Regis, Isaiah Rakes, LT Overton. When they do it by unit, you're fresh, combination of fresh throughout the game, and then you're hoping that pays off in November or December, January, if you're fortunate. And you can see, you'll watch that no matter what defensive line is in there, you see that joy for one another. And it's almost as if they set that standard, and then the next group that comes in has to make sure that they're playing to that standard as well. It's been exciting. I think McKinley coming back again really anchors that. He's a Justin Matabike, a Bobby Brown, a DeMarvin Leal type impact guy. And he's really, I think that maturity and that experience for him and the way he works with not just his D linemen, but the offensive linemen on technique, I think has really paid dividends since he's been back and healthy. Last year, it was his first game back again at Alabama. So I'm interested to see what a healthy McKinley Jackson does now that they take on the Crimson Tide this season.
Well, whoever wins this game will improve to 3-0 in the SEC and, for all intents and purposes, be in the driver's seat of the SEC West. Fans, of course, for us know what's after this ball game for Alabama, but for Texas A&M, what does the road look like after this game?
Typical SEC West, Roger, right? You know it as well as I do. At Tennessee, the next Saturday, bye week, South Carolina. Then the 2 Mississippi schools have to go to Ole Miss, play Mississippi State, Abilene Christian, and then that last game having to go to LSU. And I never know with the schedule, is it better to play LSU early, late? It's not possible because the way the schedule is now, it's always late. But you know, you say wide open, and Jimbo Fisher has said, he's come out and said, look, we can beat anybody. And then pauses and says, and we can lose to anybody. That's how the SEC West is. I'm not even talking about the rest of the SEC. that's just that one little division that might be the best division in college football. Is it down? I don't know. But Roger, isn't it a lot easier for other teams who either don't have to play in the West or play the West once than they have to do the gauntlet throughout the season? That to me, though, is how much fun is that? You have Auburn come in, you get to go to Arlington and play Arkansas. Here comes Alabama, CBS. It's the 2:30 game. You get to go to Neyland Stadium. The last time we were there, it was a December, COVID, no atmosphere, going to be completely different this time. There's not a time that I just don't stand in that booth and say to myself, man, this is the place to be on this Saturday. And this Saturday at Kyle Field, I'm fairly certain will be electric. That's the word that I'm going to keep using, but that's just life in the SEC West. If you're not prepared, then you're going to get knocked off. And I don't think the reporters really could understand on Monday. They kept asking, oh, do you get up for Alabama? I don't think they understand under Jimbo Fisher and under Nick Saban. You like to say, human nature says, oh, you circle this game, but you don't prepare any differently for Alabama than you do for Arkansas and Auburn the previous 2 weeks. McKinley Jackson said it. He said, we're going to prepare the same way because we like the results. And I'm going to tell you the same thing 3 weeks from now as we're preparing whatever opponent that is. You don't get up for the good games because then human nature says, okay, we don't think that team's as good as us. They are conditioned in the SEC West to know you're going to be challenged. Good luck taking on Arkansas's front line. That's Sam Pittman's going to have an offensive line, right? Good luck playing Trajan Jeffcoat on the left end or Landon Jackson on the right. You know what I mean? Like I get that the fans look at it, but the great teams, and this is what Nick Saban does week in and week out, taking everybody's best shot and being prepared because it is the biggest game for those schools. But that's what Jimbo Fisher said. Nameless, faceless opponent. You have to prepare. If you don't have a good week, you're not going to play well. It's not going to magically be better on Saturday. It's that preparation. And I like that kind of maturity throughout this Texas A&M team.
Going to see a game at Kyle Field is on the bucket list for a lot of college football fans. For any Alabama fan that's maybe making their way to Bryan College Station for the first time, anything they need to check out around campus before the game begins at 2:30? Any must-see spots there?
A lot of teams do the Spirit Walk, and I think that's fun to see the players and their families. It's that last chance before they do that. This will be the last year that the core is going to march. The problem is they're still going to march around campus, but they're not coming into the stadium because there's no fans in the stadium by the time the core does that. And, the core is very much the identity of Texas A&M. And I say this, and I mean this sincerely. If you're walking around and you see Aggie fans tailgating, join that tailgate. They wanted you to enjoy the experience, and they're probably cooking something really good. So you will get fed. To me, it's once you're inside the stadium, I think it's magnificent that, first of all, Roger, 38,000 student tickets. That's larger than some stadiums, right? But you have the largest student section, and they do stand the entire time. The Fighting Texas Aggie Band at halftime. But the roar, you don't need a lot of artificial noise for that place to roar, yell as we say it. Listen to that place on third down. Don't need a gong to tell you it's third down. They absolutely know that. And there's almost that, there's that buzz. And they love blue collar. They love the wrecking crew type defenses. They love now the big plays. You'll be amazed if you just sit and listen. That buzz, that you don't need a decibel level either. To me, it's noticeable, and you kind of get caught up how exciting it can be. And to me, I'm with you. I think it is an absolute college football bucket list. I think there are some, and I'm not saying it's the only one. I think there are some that if you're a fan, you must be a part of it. I think that's what Kyle Field is becoming and has been there for a while. I think it's just a great atmosphere. They'll be there early on Saturday, and it's just the way it's full. You will feel, I know it's an engineering school, but you will feel it swaying. Don't worry, we're okay. In fact, my first game, Dave Elmendorf, my partner, he kept hitting me going, can you feel it swaying? Can you feel it swaying? And you can. And to me, that's kind of the excitement. But the 12th man towels, when they start being waved, obviously, the yells that from the yell leaders that are down there, it's just very much that community. And I think it's an enjoyable experience. As I say, if you are a college football fan, I think it's an absolute enjoyable experience and a place that you must see to see some college football.
I would look forward to waving to you guys in the other booth during the sway when it's coming up on Saturday. But Andrew, thank you so much for your time, giving us a great scouting report on Texas A&M. We look forward to being at Kyle Field with you guys coming up on Saturday. Thank you again for your time.
Pleasure, my friend, Roger.